looked for you and Mike, but I didn't see you guys. And I have been watching the college football primarily because Dan, you and I talked a lot about this. Is irrationally rooting against a team, and that's how I feel about Florida State. Maybe it's because my parents live there and they don't like it. Maybe it's because you think FIFA's corrupt. Good Lord, look at football in the SEC or I guess FSU is from the ACC, but football in Georgia and Florida and Texas and Alabama and Mississippi is just out of control. And I just wish they would pay the players and just get it over with. Because good Lord, the coaches make enough and the players make a sham, pretending to go to school. God, what a hypocrisy! I can't quite get over that. But I did watch the FSU game, and I watched a little bit of the Alabama Ohio State game, and then of course I watched all the highlights. Georgia Tech won; that was good. Funerals. Nikki, I'm sorry to hear about the deaths. Hold on, I'm getting a bottle of water here. Uh-oh. You hear a bell ring, an angel gets its wings. That reminds me of It's a Wonderful Life. I'll tell you about that later if I remember. So anyway, funerals. No, I don't think all funerals have to be dirgy or mournful. I mean, look at Galen's. We had a kid playing Roxanne in a church. I mean, I guess it was pretty mournful, but, but jokes, yeah. We can tell jokes. In fact, and Dan, I don't know if you were thinking about this, but Nikki had a friend named Mike Carlton, and Mike and I were police officers together in Pullman. And he had actually he was maybe 10 years older than me. He had been a captain in the Maple Valley Fire Department over near Seattle, and then finally got fed up with the politics and chucked it all away and went and became a entry-level police officer in Pullman. And then and so he and I were real good friends, and after we had moved away, we were living here. This was 5 years ago, maybe. He had not shown up for work, and he had retired from the police department. But Mike was the kind of guy, he had no debt, lived out on a farm out in Palouse. Really nice guy. Single, and he was driving a bus for Palouse, like the Palouse school district, because he just thought it was an important thing to do. So he didn't show up for work, and they sent out somebody to check on him, and found him unconscious from, I think it was like acute low blood sugar. He was actually in a coma, and even though he wasn't diabetic, he had traveled to Liberia, and he had an issue like that in Liberia, but had no history of it. It was just all very mysterious. Anyway, he had no brain activity, and so they had kept him alive physically for a couple of days, and I was able to get out there and see him, but he eventually died. They pulled him off life support. So at his funeral, which was at that church, I can't remember which church it is. It wasn't a Unitarian. Maybe it was. Anyway, it was right up there on the corner of like Oak Street and whatever street that is that comes up past that old decrepit church that was abandoned when you were in school. You know, I'm talking about coming up from downtown. That way, right by all the frats. Anyway, in that church. Um, and there was, quite a bit of joy and sadness and celebration and all that. But at the reception in the basement of the church, people were taking turns saying things about Mike. And Mike and I love to tell jokes. In fact, remind me next time I see you for me to tell you the hair lip midget joke. That was Mike's favorite one. I'm not going to tell you that one right now. But the joke I did tell, but I stood up, because nobody had told a joke at that point. And I stood up and I said, listen, Mike loved to tell jokes. I mean, he really loved to tell jokes. And Mike being gay, one of his favorite subject matter was homosexuality, which is rather funny. But this is not the joke I told, although I have plenty of those. But the joke I told, because he also loved telling jokes about old people. So here's the joke that I told. So this guy, he's going and visiting his father in the assisted living home. And he walks in and his dad is like bouncing up and down and he's like, Dad, dude, what's going on? Why are you so excited? Excuse me. And his dad says, oh, me and Mary Jane, we're going to get married. And the guy's like, what? Mary Jane, isn't she the one I met last week? I mean, like, Dad, good Lord, you're 80, and Mary Jane's got to be 90. And, I was talking to the doctor, and he said she's got acute angina. And the guy's dad says, I know, she showed it to me. So, needless to say, all the adults laughed and then looked nervously at the children, none of whom really got the joke, but suspected that it was dirty. So, that was probably the cleanest dirty joke I could tell in a church. So I was pretty happy about that. So, maybe at your funeral, I'll tell the hair lip midget joke. Let's see. Our apartment, I have no idea what that says. God, I hate that. Our APT. Our apartment in your basement. The word I couldn't read was Stuga. I'm glad your mother-in-law didn't wreck it, because I do expect it to be in fine shape next time we get there. Actually what I imagine your house is going to be like, here's what I would like. Have you seen the Grand Budapest Hotel? That's what I want. So, Vegas, going to Vegas. Are you going with that same couple that you met here a couple years ago? Isn't this the woman who bought like a $10,000 or $20,000 necklace or something ridiculous like that while being completely drunk? I think you've told me about them before. I look forward to hearing about this time too. 8th grade carnival. Nikki. How many times do I got to tell you to stay away from the carnival? Go get a friggin' job at McDonald's, work a quarter of the time, and make twice the money, and then just donate it to the school. Trust me. I don't know. I don't want to hear about it. So, celebrating Christmas. That's a good question, because obviously people have differing opinions on this. I know Dan and Sarah have never celebrated Christmas. I've kind of always celebrated Christmas, and it's not even so much. I mean, Christmas really isn't a religious holiday. It is it's a it never was a religious holiday when it first started, right? The whole tree and Santa Claus and all that. So we celebrate all